Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art, and I'm really excited to have you here. There is an awesome challenge going around in the sewing community, 5 questions, 1 take, and I figured since I've been enjoying them so much, why not put myself in the ring and answer those questions as well. So I have the questions here in my handy dandy sewing book, and I'll go ahead through them. Full disclosure here, I just recorded this. So is it 1 take? This one will be yes. Was the other one? Yes. But my camera on my phone, the memory was full and it didn't record anything. So just erase some things. So now we're back together, friends. Okay. So this challenge was resurrected by Lindsay from Inside the Hem. I love Lindsay's channel. She does some really awesome things to get the community together. So I'm really excited that I get to partake in this one. And the first question is, what has your sewing journey looked like? So when did you start? Who taught you? And did you take any breaks? So my sewing journey actually started in high school in, I think, junior year. So my mom had a sewing machine at home, and I think she would make like duvet covers, she would make pillowcases, a lot of homewares, or like trim the drapes or mend pants and different things. She would do a lot of mending. I don't ever remember her doing a lot of like dressmaking. I should ask her. I don't know if she ever did. By her reactions when I make my own things, I don't think so. But lots of housewares, and we did have a sewing machine at home. So in junior year of high school, I was like, can you please just show me how to thread the machine and stay close by as I like do some straight lines to make sure I'm doing this right. And she had a Singer, so we set it up on the dining room table. She went ahead and showed me how to thread the machine, and we took some scrap fabrics. I did some practice stitches, and that night I stayed up. I self-drafted my own gathered skirt and made it. So that was my entry into sewing. I was one of those individuals who really took to looking at the construction of other things, and I loved engineering. Like I had that sort of mind, and I guess I still do, where I love to see something either sketched out and figure out what pieces would I need to get it to do that thing that I want it to do. And I was just manipulating the fabrics, figuring out how to put tucks and pleats and how do I do the waistband. And I think that particular one had like buttons down the back. I wonder if I made functioning buttonholes. I don't remember. Or I think I did do buttonholes, but did like a zigzag stitch and then a zigzag stitch and then like cut in between it. Like I don't think I used a buttonhole foot or like the actual machine buttonhole. So different levels. And then from there, I think the next thing I made was a matching top for that skirt. So I was using African wax print, so some Ankara fabric that we had. Completely enjoyed and loved that process. And from there, would make things here and there. Again, I was in high school, so I think I would make things here and there. But since it was my mom's machine, I don't think I tried to fuss with it too much. But for either my senior year birthday, like the birthday I had when I was in my senior year of high school, or right before going to college, like that break in between that summer, I think I bought myself my own sewing machine, which is still the one that I have today. So I bought myself a Singer sewing machine that, like, for me, had all the bells and whistles of that time, just like all these different stitches and decorative stitches and all that stuff, and it was computerized, and my mom's own wasn't. So I felt like, oh, okay, this is like a next level, like a really good progression. And I used it here and there again, but then I was in college. I took it with me to college. I remember sophomore year of college, we were preparing for a fashion show, and I like volunteered, I guess, to make some of the garments for that section. Now, mind you, it was like strips of fabric or things with elasticated waists and stuff like that that we would like tie on the models, which we ended up hosting the show junior year of college, because my sophomore year we had Snowmageddon. If any of you remember, if you were here in the Northeast in what was that, 2010 or like 20, yeah, I think it was 2010 when we had that huge snowstorm. So I was in Pittsburgh and we ended up not doing the show my sophomore year, but then did it my junior year, and they still used my stuff. I will not have photos of that to show you because wasn't my best work, but I did it and it was great. And then I would make things for occasions. So my family's from West Africa, from Guinea and Sierra Leone. And when we have big events like weddings, a monumental like birthday or anything like that, usually you get what we call ashobi. Like you get the African wax print that individual has selected that they want a group of people to wear. And then you get it made up with a tailor and get it made up into whatever you want. Now, being as frugal as I am not big on spending a ton of money for someone else to make it because I have the skill set, I felt like, to do it myself. So often I would make the clothes for my sister, my younger sister, and I for most of those events. So I did that quite a bit. When I look back, poorly done things, at least on the inside, but on the outside, they looked really good. And that went on for some time. Then when I got my first big girl job out of college and, got married and had children, like a lot of that slowed down. I was back in school, like there was a lot going on. So I at least took like a 4-year hiatus for sure. And then when I had my daughter, so this is back in 2019, I had a garment that my aunt had bought me for like around the time of my wedding or something like that, but it was big. And there was enough fabric in there if I like hacked the dress, in a certain way that I could eke out some fabric to then make my daughter like a matching outfit. And I did. And it was excellent. It was awesome. So that was sort of like my re-entry into sewing after a really long break. And then I kind of went quiet again because work and just the rush of being a mama too, like a lot of things started to pick up. And I got back into it last summer. So last summer, during the pandemic, I just needed something creative to do, something outside of like doing stuff for the house and for the family, something that was just mine. And with the warmer weather coming up, I think it was this idea that I wanted one item outfits. Like I wanted a dress I could wear where I didn't have to layer something under it. It was long sleeved, but in a fabric, in a weighty, in a fabric that was light enough for me to wear in the summer. And that was like my re-entry, and I loved it, loved it, loved it. But that was honestly the first time I was ever sewing for like quality and not just sewing it so it could be pretty for some photos and then never look at that garment again. So last year was the first year that I really felt like my garments were quality. And I mean, I could not be prouder of my sewing journey and where it has taken me. And in that time period, one of my amazing cousins, she had an extra in her trunk. So a serger, she had the Brother Lock 1034D. I think that's the serger that she had. And I was talking about how, I'm advancing in my sewing journey and how awesome it would be. And I'm, starting to see these videos on YouTube of people sewing and they're using sergers and getting these clean finishes. And she's like, oh, I have one of those. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Just thinking like, that's awesome. And she's like, do you want it? Yes, I would. And that changed the game for me. And I'm not saying that you need it by any means. Like I legitimately am sharing with you that I had been sewing for about 10 years prior to having a serger. So you can absolutely do amazing things. But I think that for me was her belief in me, her wanting to gift me this thing. I was like, I got to do some amazing things because I need to make this worth it that she gave it to me. So that was another sort of like highlight or hallmark moment in my sewing journey. All right, next question is to describe your sewing space. Right now, I'd say it's a mess, just a mess. And that's unfortunate. It makes it really hard for me to have like the enthusiasm to go into my sewing space. But as far as descriptions go, it is about like how big would that be? Like a 6 foot by 6 foot. It's almost square shape in shape, and it has 2 entries. So it is the space in our home that I think is meant to be like a dining area. When we first moved in, we were like, what's this? It has like a little drop chandelier sort of thing. So I really do think it's meant to be like the place where you eat in the home. But we just eat on the like sort of like, there's a place where we could put bar stool height chairs that has like a slight island sort of thing. So we just eat there because we're more casual. We don't really have friends over for like formal meals, and we'll be in the larger living space. So anyways, that space, because when we first moved in, the job that I had was work from home. This is pre-pandemic, but I worked from home back then. So I needed an office space. So it became my office. Then I realized I'm an adult and I need to take all of my arts and crafts artifacts from my parents' house. So I went and brought them in. And then it became my like play and work area where I had all of my crafts and arts things in there, as well as my work stuff. And then as I picked back up with sewing last year, I started really making space for more of my sewing things. So it's kind of evolved over the years and like how I orient things. I have a really large IKEA table, like tabletop, that I use, and that's where most of the time the serger and sewing machine sit. I got an Ott light on sale at Joann's once that like flips over and can like highlight the space because I sew often at night once the kids are in bed. And then from my uncle and aunt's place, when they were moving out, they had this like collapsible table. It's amazing. It's like a dream. And so the wings of it collapse and fold, so it takes up this much space when I don't want it to take up space, and then it has storage on the inner part of that, and then it folds open like this, and the legs like swing out to support it, so it can be a complete tabletop when I want it to be. So I use that as my ironing station most of the time, so it'll be like behind me if I have my serger and sewing machine here, and then I can like flip behind me and do my pressing and stuff like that. So it's a very small space, but I'm so grateful for it because I have a space. Now, I mentioned those 2 entries. We used to have like child-proof gates up. We still have the one up that blocks the entrance from the main entryway of the home, and I just have like curtains up. And we used to have one of those child gates that block you from entering the kitchen, which would then block you from being able to have access to my little office area, which is off of the kitchen. But my daughter learned how to open it, so we just got rid of it because it was kind of pointless after that. But now my kids are like in my space. They have direct access to it. They just barge through the kitchen and just kind of go in. And that's a little bit tricky now because they're older and sewing is not a safe hobby. Like there are a lot of sharp objects, the pins, the little cutters that we use to snip our threads, like the scissors, just so the point turner, like everything is a dangerous tool. The actual sewing machine itself, the iron, like everything is dangerous. So it's been a real like heart-wrenching experience when I'm like, did I turn the iron off? Is the sewing machine still plugged in? Like making sure that I'm taking extra precautions now to make sure that I just leave the space in a way that like they can't get hurt. But then also like, then they pull out my drawers where I have all of my things saved, and I like had filed all of my bias tape so beautifully. And my daughter was like, oop, I want to, all the pretty colors. So it's going to take me some time to kind of make it my own, but I do think making it clean and organized is gonna go a long way in allowing me to do all of those things. So that's more on me. I just need to make time and make myself recognize that like that's a valuable use of time. You're not sewing, but like getting your space to a place where you want to be in it is helpful. All right, that was long-winded, but that's my space. It's a hot mess right now, but we're working on it, and I'm glad that I have a space. All right, number 3 is, what is it like to be a sewing YouTuber? And did it meet your expectations? What are the reactions from others? Okay, so this channel is very small. I appreciate every single person who like takes the time out to even listen to me talk about putting pieces of fabric together to make garments that I then wear. So I find it, it's just an interesting thing, but I know how much I enjoy watching. Like there are certain YouTubers I'm like waiting for them to put something out, and I don't know that I've gotten to that place yet where people have that same sort of affinity to me, but it's been amazing to just make connections and really feel like I have a community. I guess that's the biggest surprise. I didn't know how much I would miss posting videos. Like sometimes when I go, like I just did, where I have like stretches of time where I'm not posting, I'm like, oh, should I be posting? And not like oh, I got to meet the deadline. And some of it is that, which I got to get out of that mindset, but more so like, I want to connect with people again, or I'm doing this thing, like I just want to show you how these t-shirts are coming up that I was supposed to make since September that still don't have hembands on them because I don't want to put in my twin needle, or sharing like the joyous moments of my sewing process as well as sort of like the not so joyous moments, like when my serger broke, or when things are fiddly, or when I was trying to make that dress for the wedding that I attended last month that I was trying to get done, and figuring out the process of how to use the patterns that I do have to get the idea of the garment I want that's in my head. And, you know, just being able to really fully express that process. That's why I love YouTube and being in this space and being able to share my journey. And also understanding that like the way that I dress, my comfort level, the way that I like my necklines or my skirt hems, and how long I want my clothes or how modest I want to dress and all of that, like that's my personal preference, but it could also be something that someone else relates to. And maybe the patterns that are out there don't really fit that or suit that. But if I'm able to kind of show you, hey, here's what I did to make it work for me, and that gets you one step closer to building a wardrobe you absolutely love, then like that's pretty big, you know. And it's really nice to just have that sense of community here. So I love being able to go in the comments and like someone actually is like requesting that I, you know, have a video about this, or I really like the fabrics that you chose. Like that makes me feel awesome. So thank you guys. So that's been awesome. It's only one take, so you're gonna know that the door was open. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. Okay, we're really gonna do this in one take. All right, so that's been my experience so far. Did it meet my expectations? I think I don't really know that I expected anything from it, but yeah, I guess it has, like, it's beyond what I guess I would expect. And my channel is still very small, but I feel like everyone who's here or who's like cheering me on in the comments really wants to be here. So that's been very special. What is my most memorable project, whether it was a big event, a total fail, or the biggest success? So that's question number 4. I will say that the biggest success that I've had so far might be the dress that I made for my vacation collection. The tan, like with the flowers, that like really beautiful billowy dress. I think it is Simplicity S8875. I will tell you what it is on the screen. I forget, but I love that dress. It is still my favorite. It is about to go away until next spring and summer, but it is by far, I think, just one of the best feel-good dresses I've ever made. And to have a garment make you feel just that marvelous and all the good feelings, it's really a testament to what like a really great wardrobe or great pieces can do for you. And knowing that I made it myself and having that like confidence, and you know, every time I wear it, and if somebody compliments you and you're like, whether you say it or not, like, oh, I made it, it's just, it feels really good. And that's been a piece that every time I wear it, someone has something so awesome to say. And I mean, like, I feel great in it. So I think that's the biggest thing. Now, the big event or like fail, I would say, would be the item that wasn't. So I actually cut out a blazer in the sophomore year of my, sorry, I have babies entering the room, in the sophomore year of my college journey. And that was actually a big fail because it never got made. It is still in pieces, and maybe this is the year I actually make it. It would be the blazer that took 10 years to make. So there's that. All right, so the last question is, what is one quote or saying or piece of advice you've gotten that resonates with you about your sewing journey or YouTube success? Can you close the door, please? So my answer to that is the best piece of advice I guess I got about sewing was when I started watching Hilla's channel, which is Saturday Night Stitch. She's like one of my favorites and one of the first people I found within the sewing community on YouTube last year. And she has this saying where she's always saying it's better sewn than perfect. And I love that she said that. It allows me to cut into my good fabric. It allows me to go for the patterns that I want, dream big, and just know that it's okay if it doesn't turn out exceptionally so long as I tried, because I obviously would have learned something. About YouTube, I guess just being myself, being able to share the things that worked and didn't work. And then also, can you sit down, Ulu? Sit. Can you sit right here? You can read this book. So that's been really, really nice. I'm going to stop the video here because it's just one take and I got a visitor. But I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please like and subscribe so you can see more videos from me. And I hope I answered all the questions before the door opened. But I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about my sewing journey and my sewing practice. And to watch more of that practice, you can stay a while and watch the channel. Bye-bye.